Hey y'all, it's K-Bird Tweets, and this is Peace, Love, and Baseball. Welcome back to Peace, Love, and Baseball. I'm your host, Kelsey, also known as K-Bird Tweets in the Twitterverse. Hey, it's great to have you here with me for another episode to dive into different aspects of the game we love and so much more. You can follow me at K-Bird Tweets, that's K-B-U-R-D Tweets, on the Twitter forever. We're also on Instagram, so if you'd rather keep up with us there, find us at peace.love.baseball, and our Facebook page is called Peace, Love, and Baseball. You can subscribe on YouTube if that is how you are consuming or would like to consume this podcast. We are there, Peace, Love, and Baseball, on the K-Bird Tweets YouTube channel, and you will never miss an episode. This is actually the 99th full-length episode, if you can believe it, of Peace, Love, and Baseball. We've got all kinds of stuff put away in the library of Peace, Love, and Baseball if you want to go back through the archives. We've got lots of different interviews with fans of different teams. We've got interviews with estheticians. We've got interviews with educators. We've got interviews with personal trainers. All kinds of stuff. So whatever you're looking for, search a little health and wellness topic, search a baseball topic of any kind in the Peace, Love, and Baseball podcast archives, and you're going to find something. But next week, we'll have something a little fun and special that I'm hoping to cook up for our 100th episode to celebrate. But today, it is the first day of the 2024 Major League Baseball postseason. Happy postseason, y'all. We are diving into postseason vibes today on Peace, Love, and Baseball. So before we break down the postseason brackets, and I'll put mine out tomorrow too, along with this episode, before we break down the bracket, let's go over some end of the season headlines. We're going to be talking about awards and all of that as the postseason wraps up in about a month, but there are already pretty two clear MVPs for both the American League and the National League. We've got to talk about what Aaron Judge has done this past season because I was definitely one of those that massive respect for everything that he's done, but I certainly thought, we had probably seen the best of Aaron Judge. Not to be so. Aaron Judge showed me and anybody else, and he certainly showed Yankees fans everything and more that they could have wanted to see from him this season. He finishes the season with a .322 batting average, 180 hits, 58 home runs, just a few shy of his 61 season record, and 144 RBIs. Now, on the other end, the National League, remember, Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge are not competing for the MVP anymore, which is good because that means Ohtani can be the clear favorite for the MVP in the National League. He ends the season with 54 home runs and 59 stolen bases. I think we talked about it on a previous episode, but he became the first player ever to have a 50 home run and 50 stolen base season in the same season. He was just shy of winning the Triple Crown, which means he would have had the best batting average, the most RBIs, and the most home runs. So he does end with the most home runs with 54 in the National League and the most RBIs with 130, but he ends just a little bit lower than Luis Arias, who will win the batting title. He ends with an average of 310, I think, as opposed to Luis Arias' 317. So not too shabby. And Luis Arias, while we're on that, is actually going to become the first player in Major League Baseball history to win 3 consecutive batting average titles with 3 different teams. I personally think batting average is very sexy. You've heard me talk about it before. I know a lot of people think Luis Arias doesn't necessarily carry a ton of value as a player in today's game specifically. But I really beg to differ, and I'm excited to see him potentially be a difference maker in the postseason with his team. So we'll get more into that with the Padres. Some other headlines that we're hearing about here as the season wraps up is the Guardians actually had their final game, which was set to be versus the Astros. It was canceled due to rain on Sunday, and it is not going to be made up because it doesn't affect playoff contention in any way, sure. But what this does mean is that the all-star third baseman for the Guardians, Jose Ramirez, is going to finish one home run shy of a potential 40 home run, 40 stolen base season, which would just be really cool to add to his resume, and he certainly deserves all of the accolades and all of the attention for it. He doesn't really get a whole lot of hype like players like Judge and Ohtani do, and so you'll hear the national media saying, like, this is the quietest, 40-40 season, and to be clear, he did not get to a 40-40 season because he was robbed at that last chance, but I think I've heard a lot of people talking about how nobody's talking about him, to the point where I'm like, okay, no, we're talking about him. Like, we're good. We see you, Jose Ramirez. And I'm excited. He's another one that I'm really excited to watch in the postseason. And as we kind of shift into gear talking about the postseason here, how cool is it that we've got so many stars in the postseason this season? I mean, it always happens that there's a few really big names that you're excited to watch, but this is going to be Shohei Ohtani's first postseason, and I don't think I really realized until it happened and I saw him getting to do the champagne pop and the celebration with the Dodgers that it is really important, and it's really great for the sport that Shohei Ohtani and players like him, players of his caliber, which I mean is really no one other than him, but you know what I mean. Aaron Judge, Jose Ramirez, just to name a few, are going to be on that big stage and bringing people around the TV and to the stadium to watch baseball into October. Tarik Skubal of the Detroit Tigers wins the AL pitching triple crown, which is really cool. Don't see that happen a whole lot. That means he has the best ERA, so he finishes with the best ERA at 2.39, the most wins with 18, and the most strikeouts in the American League with 228. Wow. Tarik Skubal, another one that we're going to get to watch in the postseason. Yes, in case you missed it, the Detroit Tigers did sneak in to the postseason. So we'll get to more on that as well. Charlie Blackmon retires from the Colorado Rockies. Man, Charlie Blackmon is like a reason enough to watch the Rockies, especially for this last stretch of years here where they haven't been a super competitive team, but such a fun player. Such a wonderful teammate and great competitor. He wraps things up with a career batting average of .293, well above league average, a .353 on-base percentage, .479 slug, and an .832 OPS after 14 seasons with the Rockies. He's a four-time All-Star. He won the batting title in the National League in 2017, and he is the recipient of 2 Silver Slugger Awards as well. The Rockies did a really good job of honoring him and letting him have his special moments. And the fans were certainly there for it in the final game of the season this past weekend. But the Rockies actually gifted him the Toyota Tundra that sits above the left field seats in Coors Field. I thought that was really cool because, I don't know, do we think Charlie Blackmon needs another car? Probably not. But actually, I mentioned in another episode, I wonder if this had something to do with it. I don't know if you recall back to, I think this was on the All Vibes All-Star team, Charlie Blackmon obviously on that team. We talked about then how he was driving the same car that he had been driving since high school, since 2010 or something. No, even before then, 2007, because he's, somewhere around there, maybe even before that. Early 2000s, he was still driving the same car to spring training. So maybe he did need a new car. Maybe this is part of what the Rockies' gift to him means, but he's going to take home that Toyota Tundra. There's a lot of stadiums that have cars like that sit up in the outfield. So yeah, I think that's a cool and a special takeaway for him. Another really fun note here, a little fun headline that just give me a minute because I'm like, it's fun, but it's hard for me to swallow. It's hard for me to be honest about here because Ian Happ is still playing baseball despite my efforts to encourage him to just retire and do those Car Shield commercials that he is so good at. Now, still playing baseball, still out there in left field for the Cubs. And what does he do? He passes a ball along with $300 cash to a fan in the left field bleachers, season ticket holder, regular out there. And the message on the ball says, thanks so much for your support all year. Buy left field beers on me. Yeah, pretty freaking cool, right? The Cubs also did something. God, I hate when the Cubs do cool things. Why do we have to talk about this? We wouldn't have to talk about it if the rest of y'all could keep up, okay? Because we just talk about the other teams doing the cool things, but I didn't see any other team do something like this. So the other thing that the Cubs did is that they made a video, their media team made a video with some of the players, and they thanked specific fans that are really active on social media that were nominated by other fans. And I thought that was really, really cool and just so fun. And especially for a team that, again, is not in contention, really nice way to wrap up the year and make your fan base feel genuinely appreciated. So, other teams, take note. That was pretty cool. Skip Schumacher is leaving the Marlins. If you didn't know, now you know. We knew. We knew like all season long, but it is official. He will not be returning to the Marlins, and everybody wants to know where he's going to go. I can't wait to see, because he's going to be a huge asset to wherever he goes, and I will be watching. But I'll tell you where it's not going to be. It is not going to be with the St. Louis Cardinals, because the St. Louis Cardinals announced today that Oli Marmol is going to stay in his position as manager for 2025. Why anyone was surprised by this, I do not know. Most predictable thing ever. The Cardinals do all of the predictable things, in my opinion. So, again, I'm not saying that, like, I agree with it one way or another. I don't really care, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think Oli Marmol is the problem, if you're asking me. I also don't necessarily think that John Mozeliak is the problem. I think he's done, some more good than bad over his tenure. I'll say that much. But I also think he ultimately, is working with the line of credit that he is given from ownership. So John Mozeliak is also going to stay in his role as president of baseball operations next season. But the big announcement was that Chaim Bloom will take over as president of baseball operations in 2026 as Mo steps down, and that will start his 5-year contract in that position with the St. Louis Cardinals. So we have all offseason to talk more about that, but that was really big news in Cardinals land today. Again, I'm sorry if I seem underwhelmed by it, but this was exactly what was going to happen. So I don't know. I'm just there is nothing that surprises me in the slightest. So there you go. Okay, and on that note, let's get into the postseason action here, because it is upon us. And we need to talk about all the teams that are going to be playing. I'm just going to kind of give you a rundown of the matchups that we know that we're going to see in the wild card series, and then just like a tiny little snippet, tiny little picture of the vibes for each of these teams. And if you haven't been watching all of the teams all season long, or you haven't really been keeping up, but you're ready to dig into some October baseball, here's kind of the story, the little mini story, little tagline for each of these teams going into the postseason. So the Los Angeles Dodgers have the best record in all of baseball. They will have home field advantage through the World Series. Now, the 2024 story of the Dodgers is clearly all the money that they spent in the offseason to acquire Ohtani, Yamamoto, Teoscar, so much more. But here is what you need to know about the state of the Dodgers going into the postseason. Tyler Glasnow is hurt, another guy who they spent big money on in the offseason. They have acquired Jack Flaherty, so they have Flaherty, but Flaherty and Yamamoto are their only genuinely viable starters. Sound familiar? Starting pitching yet again is definitely going to be a challenge to work through here for the Los Angeles Dodgers in the postseason. Freddie Freeman is hurt. He is out. He is wearing a boot. He is not going to play in the postseason, and that means that the three-headed monster of Ohtani, Betts, Freeman only has 2 heads now. Will the acquired double magic of Tommy Edman at the deadline be enough to make a deep run for the Dodgers? That is the question. That's really the question. No, I mean, the Dodgers have a lot of players that are like Tommy Edman, who I was going to say I think, but objectively, they are not as good as Tommy Edman. They are really similar players to him. Miguel Vargas, Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez. So their team is made up of like half of these kind of utility, like plug and play guys. And man, believe it or not, that's actually served them pretty well. It's something that works. And Tommy Edman kind of steps up that group of players a little bit more. So, I'm a huge Tommy Edman truther. I'm going to stop talking about him now, but I don't particularly think the Dodgers are the biggest threat in the postseason. I do think Tommy Edman is going to be a postseason hero. And I can't say I wouldn't love to see that. Even if it's for the Dodgers, I just want the spotlight on Tommy Edman. All right, let's talk about the Phillies, because the Phillies had the second best record in all of baseball. They will have home field advantage through the National League Championship Series, should they make it that far, and I think they will. I have been saying since the beginning of the season that the Phillies are the team to beat, hands down. There is no reason on paper why this Phillies team should not dominate any opponent that they need to face to ultimately take home the World Series trophy. It is theirs for the taking, in my opinion. The only question is, can they lock in and make it happen? I think it's their time. And if you haven't listened before, if you haven't caught on, you haven't caught up lately, I live about 15 minutes away from Citizens Bank Park. So not only would I love the opportunity to be there, but all my neighbors are going to be in a really good mood. It's going to be a more fun environment for me around here if the Phillies can make a deep run in October. The New York Yankees are the American League team that has the best record. So the Phillies and the Dodgers are not going to play in the wild card series, right? The New York Yankees also not going to play in the wild card series. They get the bye with the best record in the American League. They have home field advantage through the championship series as well, should they get there. And here's my take on the Yankees. I'm going to kind of keep it short and not so sweet. The Yankees have big stars and big money and big holes on their roster. Can the star power create enough smoke and mirrors to take this team all the way? That is my take on the Yankees. They're always going to be competitive because they have enough money to do so. They have a lot of resources. How they use them is really the difference maker. But the Yankees, to me, are a little too much smoke and mirrors to be the team that goes all the way. I could be wrong, but I'm saying it, I'm putting it out there. The Cleveland Guardians are the other team in the American League that has the highest record of the division winners, so they get the bye as well. And hey, the Guardians are a team that has found different ways to win all season long. This is a team that you will see show up and game plan differently and play differently depending on their opponent. So you can't count them out against anyone in particular, but I could see them having more trouble versus a team like the Astros and the Orioles, whereas they could have some objective advantages over like the Royals or the Tigers. So we know matchups matter in the postseason, but especially when it comes to the Guardians in these 5 and 7 game series, I think we're going to see that dictate their success a little bit more. But if I had to pick one team in the American League that I personally am wanting to see go far, I think I'm going to go with the Guardians. I just would like to see that for them. They are a young team. Stephen Vogt is a first-year manager who was playing in the major leagues last season. My husband is from Cleveland and grew up rooting for all the Cleveland sports teams. And yeah, I mean, they've got some really great talent, and you love kind of a team that was underestimated all year long to be really holding their own in the conversation now. So we've got these wild card games coming up that start today, right? We've got 2 wild card games going on in the American League and then 2 going on in the National League. In the American League, the Tigers are going to play the Astros. The Astros won their divisions. They were the AL West winner, but they had the worst record of the division winners, so they have to play in the wild card series. The winner of the Tigers versus Astros wild card series will play the Guardians. The Detroit Tigers, they are in the postseason. Did you know? They are the comeback kids of the postseason. It's really seemed like they were out of it, so much so that they sold at the trade deadline, and then somehow they got better. Players got healthy, offense picked up, and here they are in the wild card series. The manager of the Tigers was the manager of the Astros when the Astros won the World Series in 2017. So that's going to be a fun matchup for that reason alone, among many others. But the Tigers are young, and they really kind of have this nothing to lose sort of mentality that a lot of people are thinking just might give them the edge. I'm looking forward to watching that. The Astros started the season, if you don't recall, because it seems like, they're a completely different team from the one that started the season, but they started with an abysmal 12-24 record in their first 36 games. They were actually 10 games back in the American League West to the Mariners, who are not going to be playing this postseason, in mid-June with a record of 33-40. That was like the most out of first place that they were. But they did not reach a 500 record, so they weren't even playing like winning baseball until June 26th. But on September 24th, they clinched their division, and for the fourth consecutive year and the seventh out of the last 8 seasons, the Houston Astros are inevitable. Starting pitching has been a huge issue for them all season long, a really big part of why they got off to that rough start. And they are more settled now than they have been a lot of the season, but it could still be a weak point that could hold them back. But the Astros are inevitable, so let's see if they can get past the Tigers and who they'll play next. The Royals are going to face off versus the Orioles, and the winner of that series will play the Yankees. So this is big. The Royals returned to the postseason for the first time since they won the World Series in 2015. This is personally my pick for our vibes above replacement, which is, of course, a very serious stat that predicts wins above replacement, or like the edge that a team or a player might have over another, but it's strictly based on vibes. Yes. The Royals have Will Smith, who is a relief pitcher, not that Will Smith, not that Will Smith, and not that Will Smith, but the other Will Smith. They have the relief pitcher, Will Smith. You know him because he has 3 World Series rings that he won 3 years in a row, the last 3 years in a row, with 3 different teams. So naturally, now the team that he's on, the Kansas City Royals, first in line, first up, first on that vibes above replacement. They also have Salvy Perez, which if you are a baseball fan, you love Salvy Perez, who is having a career year in his already amazing career. Oh, and by the way, they have Bobby Witt Jr., who is straight up, he is an MVP. He would be the clear MVP winner in any other season or league without Aaron Judge. Man, maybe the Royals get him a World Series MVP award instead. And then don't forget the Royals also added Tommy Pham along with a couple bullpen pieces at the deadline, and that could just really take their vibes above replacement to the next level. The Orioles, however, very young and exciting team. They have been on the up and up the last couple of seasons. Needless to say, they are definitely in their winning window. So the time is now. Unfortunately, their starter, Grayson Rodriguez, who has been a super important part of their rotation and their success this season, is currently a little down and out. Not sure if we'll see him back. And they've also been without Kyle Bradish, another starting pitcher. But, they've got this guy named Corbin Burns, along with some other viable options, and an offense that rarely backs down. So even with the lack of solid starting pitching that we might have expected to see, they still might be in a relatively decent position. I mean, on paper, I think the Orioles come in as the second best complete team to beat here after the Phillies. Matchups are going to play a big part in that, but just in terms of like teams to beat, Phillies, I think the Orioles are right there. Not terribly close behind, but close enough to be in second. Okay, the NL wild card. I got to catch up here because literally as I'm recording this, the second game that was played this Monday, September 30th, against the Mets and the Braves has just ended. And they did, in fact, split the doubleheader today. So unfortunately, I'm glad I didn't wear my Snakes Alive shirt because I would have just had to rip it off. And it's not that kind of show, folks. So the Diamondbacks have been eliminated from the postseason, because the Mets won the first game and the Braves won the second game, which means that they are both in the postseason. That means that the Mets are going to go to Milwaukee. I am pretty sure. The Mets are going to go to Milwaukee, which they just were in Milwaukee. They're going to go back to Milwaukee to play the Brewers, who were the National League Central Division winner. So let's talk about the Brewers first. The Brewers really are the Cinderella story of the season, I think. Manager Pat Murphy is only even a big league manager because Craig Counsell, yeah, remember him? He ditched the Brewers for the Cubs, and now Craig is still spending October in Wisconsin, just back at home on his couch. The Brewers traded Corbin Burnes. They have somehow pieced together starting pitching, even while navigating their fair share of injuries, and an offense that just has new life breathed into it with these young guys who, the thing that I think is unique about all of the young guys on the Brewers is most of them like really have the pedigree, but they also play this scrappy kind of baseball that is very on brand for the Milwaukee Brewers. And I'm still not sure that it's enough to make a deep run. I do think the Brewers could be the surprise of the postseason, but I think they would be a surprise because even though this team has earned every bit of their flowers and the expectation to play competitive games in the postseason, I'm just not sure that they are, again, as solid of a complete team on paper as some of these other teams. But they're going to play. They're going to play the Mets. The New York Mets have made it into the postseason. Just hours ago, they actually secured postseason berth before the Atlanta Braves because they won that first game, that all-important first game. Really exciting game. If you missed out on game 161 between the Mets and the Braves, I would literally go back and watch it. It was an amazing baseball game. If every baseball game was like that, no one would ever say baseball was boring ever again. So the OMG Mets, they are another incredible proof of vibes above replacement. Love that this team, who had to put some strategy into their roster construction after Uncle Steve's billions were not enough last year, they have outplayed last year's attempt to buy a super team. The Mets are officially in the playoffs, led by Francisco Lindor, who will certainly get MVP votes this season. And honestly, he could really make a case for it even over Ohtani. The offensive numbers, I know, are, nobody's going to go up against Ohtani there. But Francisco Lindor contributes on both sides of the ball. So that personally, for me, that means a lot. We'll see what the writers think. But the Mets have a number of interesting players that you may or may not know a ton about. But we got to shout out here my guy, Jose Iglesias. Iglesias has always had solid defense, but he's never been much to write home about at the plate. And for that reason, he's kind of bopped all around, especially in the last, 5 years or so. He's kind of just been like the random free agent that gets picked up by a team, maybe plays in the minor leagues, maybe gets DFA'd. And at 34, he signed a minor league contract with the Mets. He was brought up mid-season, just after he had released his new Latin pop single, as one does when you're a Major League Baseball player. Because, of course, a Major League Baseball player for the Mets is also a Latin pop star. Well, it turns out that the song, OMG, it slaps, and he performed it post-game after Pride Night at Citi Field on June 28th. This was the break that the New York Mets needed because the Mets are 49-33. I guess now they would be 50-34 since after today. Good for a .588 winning percentage since that performance. And in 83 games played this season, so this was before today, he did add to this because he definitely had an RBI, had a double, I believe, in the first game. And Jose Iglesias is batting .341 on the season. Again, 83-game season, so about half a season. He's batting .341 with an .842 OPS. Say what? I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Don't let these Mets get hot. I don't know. I'm going to be honed in on that Brewers-Mets matchup because it is going to be a good one. So that means the Padres and the Braves are going to play here in the other National League wild card game. The Padres and the Braves, both wild card winners. The winner of this series will play go on to play the Dodgers in the division series. So the Padres are similar to the Mets in that they cut payroll significantly after attempting to bankroll a superstar team last season that failed miserably. And would you look at that? Just like the Mets, when strategy is paired with some money, it's typically a more effective approach. The Padres are one of the most electric teams in the postseason in terms of exciting players to watch. There is also some serious Mike Shildt revenge going on here. So if you didn't know, the manager of the Padres, first of all, he's one of the only major league managers that has never played in the major leagues. He was also fired from the St. Louis Cardinals for philosophical differences, and it's kind of similar, I guess, for me to the Craig Counsell storyline, like Pat Murphy now having all of this success that he wouldn't have gotten the opportunity for. And Mike Shildt is now running away with what the Padres have given him, which clearly the Cardinals never would have given him. The kind of team that the Padres have put together, for better or for worse. In this case, for Mike Shildt, looking a lot better. He is here to lead this team into October. I think my hope is that the Padres knock the Dodgers out in the DS, and I think that could be a likely possibility. The thing with these 3-game wildcard series is that, like, really anything can happen. The team with the stronger starting pitching and just pitching overall, like, I would say certainly has the biggest advantage. So in this case, Padres versus Braves, Padres, I would say, they certainly have the biggest advantage there. But the Padres are also one of only 2 teams in the postseason that have never won a World Series. So along with the Brewers, the Padres have never won a World Series. And I'm thinking, is it their year to honor their late owner, Peter Seidler, who passed away just earlier this season, whose dream really and truly was to bring a ring to San Diego? He is one of those owners that you're like, why can't more owners be like you? So I do like that story for the Padres. And like I said, there's so many really fun players to watch. Very likely NL Rookie of the Year, Jackson Merrill on that team, along with all kinds of other guys that I'm sure we'll get to talking more about as we get into covering all of the postseason action. So the Braves are the final team to secure a playoff berth. They're going to play the Padres. Man, here's the thing. I kind of thought the Braves were going to get knocked out because I just don't think it's their year. The Braves are a very, very good team. They are a very well-managed, very well-managed organization, as well as a very well-managed team. They got it going on. They're going to be good. They have been good for a long time. They're going to be good for even longer. I really believe that. But their star, Ronald Acuna Jr., has been hurt and out for the season. Spencer Strider, their best starting pitcher, is out and for the season. They've just had so many massive setbacks that I don't know. I know Braves fans are still very happy that the Braves are in the postseason, but I would have been okay with being like, you know what? It wasn't our year. Matt Olson, one of their many stars, has had a really down year overall. But hey, I mean, they just won this. They won the second of these 2 games today, which means they get to fly to San Diego tonight and play in the postseason. And otherwise, they were going home. So when their backs were against the wall, they made it count. They also were supposed to start Chris Sale, who has been, very likely the NL Cy Young Best Pitcher winner this year. They were going to start him in the second game to kind of, since their backs were up against the wall. And they didn't. They scratched him with lower back tightness or back spasms of the sort. So, I mean, who knows if I think the thought was like, oh, if he doesn't have to pitch today, he'll pitch tomorrow. Who knows? That really seems like it's up in the air for the Braves. And so that's going to be, I think, the big storyline for the Braves is can they figure out how to piece a solid pitching rotation together, or even just 2 or 3 starters here in the next few days now that they've got to hit the ground running and stay in this October contest. All right, my friends, you got it. I laid it out for you there. I'm going to write up my postseason bracket tonight, and I will post it out there tomorrow with this episode. And yeah, put one out there. You never know. I kind of don't like brackets because, if you're wrong about something in the first round, like you're like, I'm out. But I don't know. Here at Peace, Love, and Baseball, we're gonna have a little bit more fun with it than that. Maybe I should make like some kind of more fun bracket. I don't know. I'll work on it. Let me know if you have any ideas. I'm into, some postseason games to keep us all engaged, especially when your team, like mine, I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan, is not in the postseason. How do you kind of pick your allegiance? Do you have a specific way that or are you just kind of like drawn to? I know there's a lot of people that kind of have the hard and fast rule of like, if my team didn't win the division and get into the postseason, I'm gonna root for whoever did win the division. I'll stay, I'll support the division and kind of my area of the country, because they're mostly, for the most part, divided that way. But for me, it's, again, strictly based on vibes. So I'm just going with like, what team, what players am I connecting with? And my Twitter feed is probably gonna be really confusing for the next month, because I like today, I didn't know if I wanted the Mets or the Braves to win. I don't think I really cared. Like, I did really want the Snakes to get in, so I'm sad that we didn't get to talk about them. But again, just not their year. I think it's a shame that we are not going to see Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly in the postseason again. Like, I just think they had a more solid team that was like ready to roll out there. So I would have liked to see them. But anyway, yeah, you're going to be like, Kelsey, I thought you were rooting for this team. I thought you liked this guy. I'm going to be all over the place. I'm just going to ride the wave of wherever my emotions take me. So I hope you'll join me, and I will see you next week for another episode of Peace, Love, and Baseball.